2023 was an incredible year for movies, which made it really hard to make this top 10 list. But these are my 10 favorite films of the year. They're not the 10 objectively best movies of the year or anything like that. These are just the 10 that I vibed with the most. And there were so many good movies that I'm sure I'm going to disappoint a few people with my choices. But I'm going to put the honorable mentions in the description below, and I'm going to go ahead and just get this thing rolling. Saltburn was written and directed by Emerald Fennell and follows the story of Oliver, an Oxford student whose obsession with a fellow classmate named Felix leads him to spend the summer break with Felix's bizarre family for a haunting summer that none of them will forget. Saltburn was one of the most visually exciting movies I've seen this year. Every frame felt really meticulously thought out, and it had this really unique style that felt like neon gothic 70s horror movie acid trip, which was so cool and really complemented the tone of the story well. Saltburn was one of the most bizarre movies I've seen this year, but its provocative imagery and incredible sound design made me feel a wide range of visceral feelings throughout my entire body, which is really rare for a film to achieve and is something that I'm always looking for when I watch a movie. Asteroid City was directed by Wes Anderson and follows a writer on his world-famous fictional play about a grieving father who travels with his family to a small rural asteroid city to compete in a junior stargazing event, only to have his worldview disrupted forever. I'm a huge sucker for Wes Anderson movies and his style, but after not really vibing with The French Dispatch, I was really happy to just fall in love with another film of his. Anderson filled every frame with his usual witty charm, but also seemed to explore a more quiet, melancholic tone in this film, which I really appreciated. The color palette was beautiful, vibrant, and felt really unique from any other movie I've seen ever. I really connected to the themes of loneliness and isolation that some of the characters felt in this film. Like all Wes Anderson movies, the cast was so stacked that I literally don't have enough time to mention all the names, but each performance was really unique and fun. Overall, this is one of my favorite films of the year because of how stylistically unique it is, and also because of how easy it felt to just watch it. Past Lives was the directorial debut from Celine Song and is a delicately crafted love story that follows two deeply connected childhood friends reuniting for the first time in 20 years over one fateful week as they confront notions of love and destiny. This is a deeply moving story that explores the dichotomy of romanticizing the past and having to come to terms with the future. I related to this story so much due to Celine Song's nuanced direction and the way she was able to capture how it feels to idealize a relationship that almost was but never came to be. The three main performances are heartbreaking but incredibly profound. An aspect I really admired about this story is how relatable each character is, even though their wants, their desires, and their curiosities conflict with each other. Most love stories follow a standard trope of implementing an antagonist in a love triangle to validate another character leaving their current relationship for another one. But this movie steers clear from that while recognizing it, which I thought was really cool. It's one of the most realistic, heartbreaking movies I've ever seen in my life. But it also gave me an incredible sense of comfort, which those are two completely conflicting statements, and that doesn't make any sense, but that's life, and that's what this movie does. The Iron Claw was written and directed by Sean Durkin and follows the true story of the Von Erich family's rise to fame in the world of professional wrestling during the 80s, as well as their unfortunate fate that cemented them into sports history. Ever since pictures started circulating of Zac Efron yoked as hell and that it was a part of an A24 produced wrestling movie, I was hooked. I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but I love it when an actor sinks themselves into a role and transcends all preconceived notions that we have of them through a really challenging role. And right off the bat, just seeing those pictures, I knew this was what Zac Efron was going to do. The thing that impressed me the most was how tangible the chemistry was between all the actors who played the brothers, Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, and Stanley Simmons. They're incredible. They breathed a lot of life into this true story. The story was handled with delicacy. The pacing was methodical but relentlessly gripping. The cinematography, the set design, the costumes, the makeup, every single aspect of this film exuded brilliance and deep care for the characters. And it was one of those cinematic experiences that left me just completely floored in my seat. This film exhilarated me in ways that very few films are able to do. The Killer is the latest film from the legendary director David Fincher and follows the odyssey of a hitman through a series of mishaps and revelations as he spirals down a measured course of revenge. I was not expecting to love The Killer as much as I did, but I would say this is in my top 3 action movies of all time. The film flips so many action movie tropes on its head and utilizes a really slow, methodical pacing that is tense as hell. Way more so than most action films like The Bourne Supremacy, which rely on quick cuts and disorienting cinematography to make it feel like there's a lot of action happening, but it ends up just alienating its audience because we don't know what the hell's going on. This movie's way different from that. I loved how realistic this story felt and how it critiqued the convenience of our current consumer culture while also making a satirical nod to the way David Fincher views himself as an artist. This was one of the most hypnotic movies I've seen this year and is definitely worth a watch if you like action movies. Dream Scenario was written and directed by Christopher Borgli, at least I hope that's how you say his name, and it's about an unremarkable family man who finds his life turned upside down when millions of strangers suddenly start seeing him in their dreams, and how he navigates his newfound stardom when people's dreams start taking a turn for the worse. Ever since this movie was announced, I knew I was going to love it. I love Nicolas Cage. I love A24. I love Michael Cera. I love Ari Aster, who produced this film. Nicolas Cage was perfect for this role and is absolutely hilarious. The concept was original, it's profound, with the perfect mix of being really absurd. It took a really simple approach to a very complex narrative and left just enough room for its audience to question the themes well after the film was over. Dream Scenario tackles heavy subject matters about fame, cancel culture, the way that ad agencies exploit us in our everyday lives, and the beauty of the mundane, all in a very digestible and really darkly comedic way. The film brought a really new and unique approach to editing that I'm sure people are going to be studying for years to come. I know I will. Overall, Dream Scenario was just really fresh. It was fun, and it'll probably be the movie that I end up watching the most over and over again from this year. Talk to Me is the debut feature film directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, I hope that's how you say their name, and is about a group of teenagers who obsessively use an embalmed hand to conjure spirits as a party trick until one of them goes a little too far. This is one of the most original and unique horror movie premises I've seen in my life, and I think we're going to be talking about it right along some of the most classic horror movies in history. The thing I really appreciated is the concept's original approach to tackling grief, substance abuse, peer pressure, addiction, which are all things that can be closely tied together in a young person's life. Then, to take it even further, they conveyed that story with almost every type of horror subgenre there is. Talk to Me is gory, it's paranormal, it's a psychological thriller. It has the campy elements of a group of teenagers that you usually find in slasher movies. And it has moments of really shocking and visceral body horror. The lead actress, Sophie Wilde, was incredible. The writing was original as hell. And It was really inspiring to watch a debut feature film that was really well made come from two brothers who started out as YouTubers. Poor Things is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and follows the evolution of Bella Baxter, a woman who is reanimated with the mind of her unborn baby after her death, as she encounters a series of men who try to possess her in different ways. Poor Things is fucking weird, but it's also one of the most fascinating movies I saw this year. Yorgos Lanthimos is one of my favorite living filmmakers. This movie possesses his usual tone, born from the idiosyncratic performances and a batshit crazy concept, but Lanthimos took this movie to the next level with his collaborators in cinematography, production design, makeup, costume, and score. I love the really unique style of this film and how it complemented the themes of excess, sexual liberation, and discovering the nuances of a really complex world through the lens of an evolving woman. Emma Stone delivered one of the most complex and challenging performances I've seen all year. Mark Ruffalo delivered one of the funniest that I've seen all year. I love this movie, and I know a lot of other people do too, but I also know a lot of people are going to hate this movie because it's challenging both intellectually and in tone, but it's undeniable that it's one of the most unique movies that's ever been made, and it was made by one of the most unique directors working right now. Bose Afraid is the third film written and directed by one of the most exciting artists of our generation, Ari Aster. Following the sudden death of his mother, the film follows a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man as he confronts his darkest fears while embarking on an epic and darkly surreal odyssey back home. This was arguably the most polarizing film of the year. I know people who absolutely love this movie, and I equally know just as many people who fucking hate this movie. And I get that. I get why people would hate this movie, but I love this movie. The first half of this movie is really, really dark, but it made me laugh. Probably the hardest I've laughed in a theater this year. The second half is absolutely absurd, but I also connected to the emotions that Bo endures and thought that the internal journey that he embarked on was actually really profound, even though it's weird. It's weird as hell. And if you saw the movie, you know exactly which scene I'm thinking of right now because it gets so weird. But still, I was able to connect to it on an emotional level, which I thought was really interesting. Or maybe that says something about me. Who knows? This is one of those movies that I think a lot of people hate right now, but we're going to watch it in like 10 years and people are going to absolutely love this film. Anatomy of a Fall was written and directed by Justine Tripe and follows the story of a woman who is suspected of her husband's murder, as well as their blind son's moral dilemma that he faces as the main witness. This movie won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is arguably the best award that a movie can ever get, and deservedly so. This was an incredible year for cinema with a lot of movies that are going to stick with me for a very long time, but no other movie has stuck with me this year like Anatomy of a Fall. The movie conveys the concept of truth and objectivity within our society, especially in the legal system, but then questions whether or not the nature of these two concepts actually exist. Humans are complex. We hold on to our perspectives of people and relationships within our lives. So when two individuals' perceptions of each other and the events in their lives come head to head against each other, whose truth is more truthful? This is a concept that I haven't seen portrayed in a movie much, if ever. It felt really unique and refreshing. The story starts off as a slow, methodical crime investigation and gradually turns into one of the most tense and thrilling dissections of a relationship that I've ever seen. And that's it, folks. That is my top 10 of the year. What are yours? Let me know below.